Welcome back to Block TV. It's time now for Traders Take, and markets still don't seem to be able to find clear direction after a wild and woolly week that we saw last week that impacted not just the crypto markets, but equities, commodities, everything seemed to be taking a hit, and now there seems to be a wait and see sort of policy. But to try and figure out where it may all head in the near future, we have our very own technical analyst, Joe Saz, here on hand to help break it all down. Joe, what's up for the week ahead? What are we looking at for Bitcoin in the upcoming start of March?
I really like the way that you put it there, Asher. A wait and see policy. It's kind of like I refer to it as price discovery often. Whenever we make a big move in Bitcoin, there's always that little period of time where sellers don't really know if they should sell, because they might be selling a bottom, and buyers don't know if they should buy because they could easily be buying into, a price that could easily plummet. So, that's a great way of putting it there. And what do I see happening? This is getting a bit. So let me present a positive argument and a negative one. We're experiencing some higher lows. Maybe this low relative to here is about the same, maybe a tiny bit lower. Failed breakout attempt, which is ugly, ending in a huge inverted hammer. Hammer there, right here. So, I mean, we definitely have a failed breakout attempt. So these lower highs are also killing us. And again, this failed breakout really is a sign that there's a lot of weakness from the bulls. So I'm not very pleased with what I'm seeing. And in fact, I hate to put this figure on the table, but I think 7,600 is very possible for us to head down to. And the reason I bring that up quickly is because the CME gap, this one's currently filled, so let's knock this one off the table. And I mean, just to throw a price target out there, our next CME gap is down at 76.85. Our only other existing gap is up here at 11,700 range, and it doesn't seem like we're headed straight for that one. I can tell you that right now. So pretty much, if we're going to break down and things are going to get bad, let's expect to pull back into the 7Ks, reevaluate, reassess, rebuild our positions. But for now, the important thing is to remember that during pretty much each bull run, Bitcoin has suffered numerous 40, 30% pullbacks. And we haven't really even come close. Right now, we're at around 20%. So I think we have a little bit more room to go to continue to fear people out of the market. And it's certainly possible that that's going to be the case. And I'm just mentally preparing myself for those types of pullbacks because we will be having multiple. And the problem is that now that we've had this steep of a pullback, it's going to take us a number of weeks to recover. So right now, my 14K5 target by the halvening is looking pretty weak. It's going to be tough for us to recover all this lost ground because now we have to run through the whole price discovery phase, and that's assuming that we're going to go up from here. If we go down a bit further, then it's going to take even more time for bulls to settle in at that price to repurchase or to get back in the market or to keep, maybe spend more money dollar cost averaging. I still believe this is an isolated event, and I still think that money is a little dry. And if we do continue downward, then our halvening target's getting uglier by the day.
Well, I got to ask then, Joe, I mean, as a trader, where are you factoring or how much weight are you factoring into the sort of wider macro picture at the moment? Of course, we've seen those steep falls in US equities markets and really equities markets around the world. Obviously, coronavirus fears and panics taking place across a number of different markets. As you're trading in crypto, are you factoring that in? To what degree? And do you think that could potentially have an impact on the halvening event come May?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not factoring it in. This is my first experience with a disease. You can research everything you want, but everything's going to be different each time. Especially with crypto, this is a completely different world. And this is a pretty interesting situation, and this has just been more of a data absorption phase for me than a speculation based on what we have going on. I really think that, if I can present an argument in both directions, then I remain neutral on the topic. And I could say people are selling Bitcoin because they need to, fund debit cards in China to pay for various things, right? But I could also say that Bitcoin is probably one of the safest ways to transact, and the East has adopted it much faster than the rest of the world. So I mean, I'm still very neutral on that topic. I don't think maybe a sell-off market wide, maybe it happens, and maybe it's a rare circumstance. It could have been an alignment of the planets, let's say. But I still can't wrap my head around coronavirus being the cause for a Bitcoin crash.
Mm-hmm. Right, certainly a lot of macro factors there at play. So let's just take a look beyond Bitcoin itself there, taking a look at some of the alts out there. Now, there have been some pretty steep declines, obviously, as we've mentioned in the past. But do you see any hope for the alts, or do you think this could be a bit of a reckoning as we come out of that sort of alt season? If it was, I know you don't seem to quite think we fully hit the alt season, but what are your thoughts there, Joe?
Yeah. So just as we move on, Bitcoin just is hitting a 6, a red 6 out of into a 9 count, hopefully completing it, and Ethereum is doing the same. Now, Ethereum still looks better off to me than Bitcoin does because we haven't broken those moving average support areas. We're still testing and riding alongside just above the 50-day moving average. So ETH is still looking okay. I think I'm going to be a little bit more worried if ETH breaks the 50. But that will still be just ETH moving closer to a bullish crossover of the intermediate and long-term moving averages. So we still have some very bullish action going on here, and I think it's still looking good. Man, it's crazy. It's going to be crazy if ETH, rekindles this market. If for whatever reason ETH is supported by the 50-day moving average and we start bouncing off. I'd be very curious to see, and maybe I'll subscribe a little more to the theory that alts move the market. Now, ETH on the daily is looking okay still. Definitely some big moves, but a nice consolidation, support at the 50, and a bullish crossover very slightly. I mean, this thing, I don't even know if this is 3 days out. This looks like it might be like 6 days out because these two moving averages are coming in so slowly. So there's definitely a convergence of moving averages there that'll be very bullish. Quick look at XRP, stabilizing the same way. It would have been nicer, if I was an XRP fan, I would have loved this to be a red 7. So, we can get to our sequential 9. But right now, we had a number of bullish crossovers, and this broke through each one of them. So this is probably, it's like each cryptocurrency has reacted quite differently to these bullish crossovers. XRP resting well below, being resisted by now the intermediate term moving average. I mean, this moving average, the 50, could cross right back below the 200. It doesn't look like it's going to have any problem doing that if this price plummets. So XRP looks like it's in a bit of danger to me right now. And yeah, let's see, just a quick look at dominance. Of course, we get a blank screen. So I'll check, I think that alts are probably going to be following Bitcoin. And if we have one chance, I would say Ethereum is probably going to be the one that pops out of this little mess first. But again, let's start preparing ourselves for, this isn't doomsday prep. Bitcoin's going to have 30 to 40% pullbacks along the way. They're going to scare a lot of people out of the market, liquidate a lot of people. But I think for the most part, if you put it all into perspective, I think that the bull run in the long-term picture is going to be still looking good. But let's see what happens first. I mean, breaking down past the 7,000s is going to be very dangerous. It's going to be looking more like a 40% pullback, and if it gets beyond that, then I would say that we're clearly in a bear market, and this 10K pump was the halvening hype, and we couldn't get any further, and buyers are done.
All right. Well, certainly one to watch closely as the months progress. We get close to that halving event. So much to see in the markets. Joe, thanks so much for being with us. And for those watching, make sure you stay with us at blocktv.com for all the latest in your crypto news and information. I'm westropp-evans. Thanks for watching.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.